Does Ford's 2020 Escape strategy make sense? If you're like us, the last couple of years for Ford has had our heads spinning. Cars are dead. Related video. 2020 Ford Escape is a citified slicker SUV provided by Roadshow. A lack of focus? Much has been said, most importantly the focus and lines. Ford says by any of these moves. Many publicly whether the business decisions here were justified, the optics were bad. To onlookers, the real test of Ford's strategy is the 2020 Escape, tasked with mopping up much of the potential sales of the Fusion, Focus, and the stillborn Focus Active. The new Escape Fit 2/Escape is the perfect example of avoiding the tyranny of Commodore-ditised silhouettes H/T to HTT in the small utility segment and the perfect stepping stone to improve ride height and better space than a passenger car. It also open up, the styling is also smooth, car-like, and decidedly untruckish particularly compared to the boxy but cute first and second generation Escapes. It's as if if we ignore the Bronco crossover and just look at this Escape on its merits, through the lens of the car's ITLLB displacing, it's a promising execution. But affordability, bucking the trend with the baby Bronco. The other aspect of this discussion is the upcoming baby Bronco U, a vehicle that's likely to be the Escape's platform twin, with a more adventure-oriented focus. Rather than builds, that's why the Escape is so soft and smooth. Ford says it's sophisticated, urban. ITLLC 3/boom. New small utility. What Ford risks is that by losing most of the perception of capability, the rugged look and outdoor lifestyle imagery, perhaps some of the appeal of the crossover genre itself evaporates. This is of course, some final thoughts. If the discussion keeps circling around to the as of yet unknown price of both the Escape and its baby Bronco sibling, there's a good reason for that. Ford's overall strategy may live or die on what they can get away selling a loss leader Escape for. Sure, with other manufacturers still sell plenty of vehicles in the Focus and Fusion classes, with lower starting MSRPs than the current Escape. Those MSRP raise something else to consider. The Fusion, Focus, and even the Fiesta nameplates do have some recognition and goodwill left. The fact that that'll fade. And perhaps other, will all credit to Ford here for making the Escape more efficient and car-like. Crossovers in general are not as efficient or light or more importantly, as cheap as the smaller vehicles they're displacing. They've gotten more of, what are we left with? A strategy that, in isolation, the product itself the 2020 Escape is compelling. It's likely to originally appeared on Thursday, April 4, 2019 13:01:00 EDT. Please see our term.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up in the park pot.